The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a crystal cave filled with stars. Ambassador Marcus Chen stood at the speaking platform, his hands gripping the edges of the podium. Around him, in circular rows rising up toward the domed ceiling, sat representatives from 57 different species. Some had scales, some had feathers, and some were just clouds of glowing energy. They all watched him with varying degrees of interest. Marcus had practiced his speech 100 times. He knew every word, every pause, every gesture. But standing here, feeling the weight of so many alien eyes upon him, his mouth felt dry. Honored members of the council, he began, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. Humanity comes before you today with a request and a warning. Our scouts have detected movement in the outer rim. The void swarm is expanding again. We've lost contact with 3 survey stations in the last month. A rippling sound passed through the chamber. Some species made clicking noises. Others hummed. The Telaxis representative, a being of pure blue energy contained in a floating sphere, pulsed with what might have been amusement. Marcus continued, trying to keep his voice steady. Earth proposes a mutual defense treaty. We share our military resources, our strategic planning, our defensive technologies. Together we can enough. The voice came from Counselor Vexthara, the Arxian representative. She looked like a massive insect standing upright on 4 legs with 2 more limbs folded across her armored chest. Her compound eyes glittered in the light. We have heard your concerns, human. We have noted them. But the Council does not share advanced technology with junior members. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. With respect, Counselor, humanity has been a Council member for 15 years. We've contributed to 3 joint research projects, provided supplies during the Vren food crisis, and 15 years? Vexthara interrupted, her mandibles clicking with what Marcus had learned was contempt. You measure your achievements in years. The Arxian hegemony has sailed between the stars for 50,000 years. Your entire civilization, from your first scratched cave paintings to your current stellar drives, spans barely 10,000 years. You are infants, laughter echoed through the chamber. Not cruel laughter exactly, but the kind adults make when a child says something foolishly confident. Marcus felt heat rising in his cheeks. In the gallery behind him, Captain Sarah Okonkwo watched with clenched fists. She wore her military uniform, medals gleaming on her chest, and every muscle in her body was tense. She wanted to shout at them to make them understand. But this was Marcus's moment, and she had to trust him. Marcus took a breath. Our age doesn't diminish the threat. The void swarm doesn't care how long a species has been in space. It consumes everything in its path. If we work together, you mean if we protect you, said Cathren, the Vren counselor. He was reptilian, with deep green scales and eyes that reflected no light. The outer rim is far from council space, far from your 12 little colony worlds. This swarm you fear has existed for millions of years. It expands, it retreats, it sleeps. We have survived it before. But the pattern is changing, Marcus insisted. He pulled up holographic displays, showing star charts and movement vectors. Look at the data. This expansion is faster, more organized. If it reaches, sit down, Ambassador Chen. Vexthara's voice was not loud, but it cut through the chamber like a blade. You come before this council with demands. Demands for our technology, our weapons, our shields. You speak of threats we have faced since before your world had multicellular life. And then you wonder why we hesitate to arm a species that has never known peace even among itself. Marcus felt something break inside him. We've had peace on Earth for 200 years. 200 years, the Telaxis representative said, its voice like wind chimes. We have treaties older than your written language. You wage war on your own kind over invisible lines on your planet's surface. You cluster weapons around your home world even now. And you ask us to trust you with technology that could shatter stars? We keep weapons because the galaxy is dangerous, Marcus said quietly. You taught us that. Then you have learned your lesson, Vexthara said. Now learn another. Sit. Listen, observe. Perhaps in a few more centuries, humanity will be ready for a greater role. But not today, the counselor raised one of her upper limbs. I call for a vote. Item 774, Earth's request for advanced defensive technology and expanded colonization rights. All opposed? Lights flickered around the chamber as representatives voted. Marcus watched the tally appear on his podium display. 43 opposed, 8 abstained. 6 in favor. It wasn't even close. Furthermore, Vexthara continued, The Council will implement restrictions on human expansion. No new colony worlds beyond your current 12. No military vessels within 6 light-years of Council trade routes. No research into fold space weapons. You're caging us, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. We are keeping order, Vexithara replied. When you prove yourselves responsible, these restrictions will be lifted. Until then, they stand. Sarah saw Marcus's shoulders slump. She had served with him in the Earth Defense Force before they both became diplomats. She had seen him face down enemy ships without flinching. But this was different. This wasn't an enemy you could fight. This was being dismissed like a child at an adult's table. Marcus straightened his back. He looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as he could. Then he spoke, and his voice was different now. Colder, harder. Then humanity withdraws from this council. Silence fell across the chamber. It lasted only a moment before confused chatter broke out. You cannot simply withdraw, Catherine said, sounding more puzzled than angry. We can and we do, Marcus said. We came to this council seeking partners. We came with hope that the great civilizations of the galaxy would welcome us, teach us, grow with us. Instead, we found masters who want to keep us leashed. He gathered his data tablets and tucked them under his arm. We asked for your help facing a threat. You denied us. We asked for trust. You gave us chains. So Earth will go forward alone. We will face the darkness with our own strength. And we will remember this day. Marcus turned and walked toward the exit. Sarah fell into step beside him along with the rest of the small human delegation. Their footsteps echoed on the crystal floor. Behind them, laughter rose again. This time it was definitely cruel. Let them go, Vexithara said, loud enough for the departing humans to hear. They will return begging within a decade, when they realize how alone they truly are in this dark galaxy, when they understand that pride is a luxury only the strong can afford. Perhaps we should stop them, the Talaxis representative suggested. They are angry. Anger makes species do foolish things. Let them be angry, Vexithara said. Let them be proud. Let them go to their little corner of space and shout at the void. They will learn. They always do. The great doors closed behind the human delegation with a soft boom. In the hallway outside, Marcus stopped. His hands were shaking. Sarah put a hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing, she said quietly. Did I? Marcus looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. It wasn't defeat. It was something colder, something that looked like determination mixed with fury. We just cut ourselves off from the entire galactic community, Sarah. We're alone now. Truly alone. Then we'll make alone enough, she said. We've done more with less before. Marcus nodded slowly. He took one last look at the great doors of the council chamber. They called us children, he said. Maybe they're right. But children grow up, and they remember who taught them to stand on their own. He turned and walked toward the docking bay where the human ship waited. Behind those closed doors, the council continued its business, already forgetting about the small, angry species that had just walked out of their lives. They would remember eventually. They would all remember, but that would come later. 23 years had passed since the human delegation walked out of the council chamber. At first, no one noticed anything unusual. Human ships still moved along their trade routes. Human colonies still transmitted their standard beacon signals. Everything seemed normal. Then slowly, things began to change. Captain Telvar of the merchant vessel Dawn's Promise was the first to notice something wrong. He had traded with human colonies for years, selling Vren spices and buying human-manufactured goods. The humans made excellent tools, and their planets always paid fair prices. But when he arrived at the human colony world of New Vancouver, everything was different. His ship detected the planet from a distance, but as he approached, automated defense stations powered up. A message played on repeat. This is the border of human space. All foreign vessels must turn back. No exceptions. This is your only warning. Telvar tried to send a message. He explained that he was a regular trader, that he had permits, that he meant no harm. The response was the same automated message. When he tried to move closer, warning shots flashed across his bow. Not close enough to hit, but close enough to make his shields flare. He turned back. The same thing happened to dozens of other merchants over the following months. Human space was closed. The colonies that had once welcomed visitors now turned everyone away. The communication channels that humanity had used to talk with the council went silent. At first, the council assumed it was temporary. Humans were angry and anger faded. They would cool down and return eventually, but months turned into years and the silence continued. Counselor Vexithara found herself thinking about the humans more than she expected. She had dismissed them so easily that day. Now she wondered if she had made a mistake. Not because she thought they mattered, but because silence was always suspicious. Send a scout ship, she ordered her military commanders. I want to know what the humans are doing behind their closed borders. The Arxian scout ship was fast and stealthy. It crossed into human space carefully, avoiding the automated defense stations. The crew expected to find human colonies going about their business, maybe nursing their wounded pride. What they found instead made no sense. The pilot stared at her sensor displays, checking them again and again. This can't be right, she whispered. Where the modest human settlements should have been, her sensors detected massive industrial complexes. Energy signatures that were 10 times stronger than they should be. Orbital construction yards that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. And ships, so many ships. The pilot began recording everything her sensors could detect. She needed to get this information back to the council. But as she prepared to leave, every alarm in her cockpit screamed at once. Something had found her. Something fast. Her ship never made it back to council space. The last transmission was just static and a flash of light. 2 more Arxian scouts were sent. Neither returned. The council meeting that followed was tense. Vexthera stood before her fellow counselors, her mandibles clicking with frustration. 3 ships, she said. 3 of our fastest scouts. All lost in human space. Perhaps they had accidents, Catherine suggested, though his tone said he didn't believe it. 3 accidents? Vexthara's compound eyes glittered. No, the humans are hiding something. And they're willing to destroy our ships to keep it hidden. The Talaxis representative pulsed thoughtfully. We could send a battle group. Demand answers. That would be an act of war, said young Counselor Tyrex, a Vren who had only joined the council 5 years earlier. He had not been present when the humans left. The humans closed their borders. We have no legal right to force entry. Legal right? Vexthara turned on him. They are destroying council ships. Ships that entered their space without permission, Tyrex pointed out. By our own laws, they have the right to defend their territory. Vexithara wanted to argue, but she couldn't. He was right. The council's own rules protected the humans as much as she hated to admit it. Instead, she authorized long-range sensor sweeps. Ships were positioned at the edge of human space, scanning as deeply as their equipment allowed. The results troubled everyone who saw them. Admiral Krell was Arxian's finest military mind. He had commanded fleets for 300 years. He looked at the sensor data and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. These energy readings, he said to Vexithara in a private meeting. They show industrial output that should be impossible for a species at humanity's level. We're detecting power generation that exceeds some of our core worlds. How? Vexithara demanded. They're primitives. They barely understand faster than light travel. Understood, Krell corrected gently. Past tense. Whatever they understand now, it's far beyond what they showed us 23 years ago. He pulled up holographic projections, and it's not just one world. All 12 of their colonies show similar activity. They're building something, Counselor. Something large, and we have no idea what. Vexithara felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. Recommendations? We wait, Krell said. And we prepare. If the humans emerge from their silence, we need to be ready. But the humans didn't emerge. The silence stretched on. 5 years became 10. 10 became 15. Human space remained closed, a dark spot on the galactic map that no one could penetrate. Then the Void Swarm arrived. The first warning came from the Outer Rim, just as Ambassador Chen had predicted decades earlier. A mining colony went silent. Then another. A survey ship investigating found nothing but empty stations and destroyed equipment. The Council sent a military expedition to investigate. 20 ships commanded by experienced officers with enough firepower to handle any pirate threat. 16 days later, 1 ship returned. It was heavily damaged, barely holding together. The crew was dead except for the captain, who kept repeating the same words over and over. Too many, too many. They never stopped coming. The Void Swarm had awakened. Over the next years, it spread like fire through dry grass. 3 minor species were consumed entirely. Their worlds stripped clean. Council fleets fought desperate battles and won some, But each victory cost more ships than they could replace. The swarm was different this time, more organized, more aggressive, exactly as the humans had warned. In an emergency session, the council debated their options. Vexithara, now much older and showing signs of age in her slow movements, stood before them. "We need help," she said simply. "Our fleets are stretched thin. We've lost 4 major species already. At this rate, we have perhaps 10 years before the swarm reaches core council worlds." "What help?" Cthulhu asked, his scales dull with age. "We've sent messages to every ally. Everyone who can fight is already fighting." Young Terex, no longer quite so young, spoke up. "There is one option we haven't tried." Everyone knew what he meant. The chamber fell silent. "No," Vexithara said. "Absolutely not. Why not?" Terex challenged. "Pride? The same pride that made us dismiss them decades ago? The same pride that might get us all killed?" "We don't even know if they're still alive," the Talaxis representative said. "They could have destroyed themselves. Or been destroyed. That silence could mean extinction. Or it could mean they're waiting," Terex said. He pulled up the old sensor data from the human borders. "These readings suggest massive military buildup. What if they've been preparing for this? What if they knew the swarm would come, and they've spent 20 years getting ready? Even if true, why would they help us?" Vexithara asked bitterly. "We rejected them. We mocked them. We called them children. I don't know," Terex admitted. "But we have to try. We have nothing left to lose." The vote was close, but it passed. A message would be sent to human space. A plea for help. An admission of failure. Vexithara insisted on recording the message herself. She stood before the camera, feeling every one of her long years. Her exoskeleton was scarred from a recent battle. She looked tired. "Ambassador Chen," she began, knowing he was probably long dead. "This message is for humanity. 23 years ago you came before us with a warning. We didn't listen. You offered partnership. We gave you chains instead. You were right about everything. The swarm has come and we cannot stop it alone." She paused, her mandibles trembling slightly. "We were wrong. We were arrogant. We are dying. If there is any mercy in humanity, if you remember the ideals your ambassador spoke of, help us. Not for our sake. We deserve our fate, but for the trillions of innocents who will die if the swarm is not stopped." The message was sent to every human border beacon. Then came the waiting, 3 days of silence. Council members began to lose hope. Perhaps humanity really was gone. Perhaps they were alone after all. On the 4th day, something appeared on the long-range sensors. A single ship emerging from human space. It was small, sleek, and its design was unlike anything in Council records. It arrived at Centrum Prime, the Council's heart world, and sent a message. The voice was human, female, cold as ice in deep space. "This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo of the United Human Navy. We received your message. We're sending coordinates. Evacuate all civilian populations to these rally points immediately. Your military fleets will form a defensive line at the Kepler threshold. We'll handle the rest." A long pause then. "You asked what humanity became in our silence. You're about to find out." The council chamber was not the grand hall it had once been. The beautiful crystal walls were scarred from a near-miss orbital bombardment. Half the seats stood empty, their species either destroyed or too busy fighting for survival to attend meetings. The air smelled of recycled atmosphere and fear. Councillor Vexithara looked around at the remaining representatives. 23 species down from 57. Some seats would never be filled again. The Keltar were extinct. The Marcians were scattered refugees. The proud hegemony of Tarsus was now 3 damaged ships and maybe 10,000 survivors. "Report," she said tiredly. Admiral Krell stepped forward, moving slowly. He had been injured in the Battle of Corellis, and his exoskeleton still showed the scars. "The news is not good. The swarm has taken the Calyx system. The Arxian home fleet made a last stand at Calyx Prime. We destroyed thousands of swarm ships, but they just kept coming. Of 300 vessels, only 47 escaped." The chamber was silent except for the hum of life support. "The swarm is 3 jumps from Centrum Prime now," Krell continued. "Our defensive lines are holding, but barely. We estimate we have 2 weeks. Maybe 3 if we're lucky. Then they'll be here." "What about the evacuation?" Trex asked. He looked older too, his scales showing stress marks. "Proceeding as fast as possible," Krell said. "But we have billions of civilians. We can't move them all in 2 weeks. Maybe half if everything goes perfectly." "And things never go perfectly," Vexithara said quietly. She stood, feeling the weight of her years and her failures. I authorized the message to the humans 4 days ago. We've received one response. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo informed us that they would handle it and gave us evacuation coordinates and defensive positions. That's all? Catherine asked. No promise of help? No timeline? That's all? Vexithara confirmed. They told us to watch our scopes. That humanity comes at dawn. Dawn was yesterday, someone muttered. Maybe they're not coming, another counselor said. Maybe they changed their minds. Or maybe they don't have the strength they pretended to have, Catherine added. One ship came, that's all we saw. Perhaps that's all they have left. No. The voice belonged to young Terex. He was studying a data tablet. No, I don't think that's it. I've been looking at the old sensor data from their borders. Then I compared it to the energy signatures we detected from Admiral Okonkwo's ship. He pulled up holographic displays. This single human ship generated more power than our largest dreadnoughts. Its hull signature suggests materials we've never seen before. And it appeared without using conventional faster-than-light travel. It just emerged from nowhere. What are you saying? Vexithara asked. I'm saying they've advanced far beyond anything we can imagine, Terex said. If that one ship represents their baseline technology, then their fleet, if they have one, could be devastating. If they come, Catherine said darkly. They'll come, Vexithara said. She didn't know why she believed it, but she did. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was just the need to believe in something. They said they would. Admiral Okonkwo fought beside Ambassador Chen 30 years ago. She remembers us. She has every reason to leave us to die, but she said they would handle it. I believe her. The meeting ended without resolution. There was nothing more to do except wait and pray to whatever gods each species believed in. At the Kepler threshold, the last defensive line before Centrum Prime, Admiral Krell commanded the remains of the Council fleet. He had 231 ships. Some were damaged. Most were undermanned. All were exhausted. Across from them, at the edge of sensor range, the Void Swarm gathered. Krell's sensors could barely count them all. Thousands of bioships, each one a living weapon. They moved together like a school of predatory fish hunting. Sir, they're moving, his tactical officer reported. I see it, Krell said. All ships battle positions. This is it, the swarm surged forward. Not a disorganized rush, but a calculated assault. They had learned. They adapted. That's what made them so terrifying. Council ships opened fire. Energy weapons and missiles streaked across the darkness. Swarm ships died by the dozens, but more took their place. Always more. They're flanking us on the left, someone shouted. Redirect squadrons 3 and 4, Krell ordered, his voice calm despite everything. He had fought in hundreds of battles. He knew when one was lost, but he would fight anyway because that's what soldiers did. The battle raged for hours. Council ships fought with everything they had. They were defending their homes, their families, everything they loved. But courage alone wasn't enough. Sir, the right flank is collapsing. The carrier Destiny's Child is down. We've lost contact with the Vren battle group. Krell watched the tactical display and knew they had maybe an hour before the line broke completely. Then the swarm would pour through to Centrum Prime. Then it would be over. All ships, he began, preparing to give the order to fall back, to at least buy more time for the evacuation. Every sensor on his ship screamed at once, "What is that?" His tactical officer yelled. Space itself was tearing open, not like normal faster-than-light arrival. This was different. Massive rifts in reality, each one kilometers wide, appearing at the edge of the system. And through them came ships. Human ships. Not the single elegant vessel that Admiral Okonkwo had arrived in. These were warships, massive and dark, their hulls seeming to absorb light itself. They emerged in perfect formation, one after another, like the universe was giving birth to steel and fury. Count them, Krell whispered. His tactical officer tried. Her voice shook. 200, 400, 600. Sir, I can't. They just keep coming. Give me a final count. 1,000 ships, sir. Exactly 1,000. The computer says they're in perfect formation, moving as a single unit. Krell had commanded fleets his entire life. He understood naval tactics, ship classes, formation strategy. Looking at this human fleet, he realized he understood nothing. Each of the smaller ships was larger than his flagship. The bigger ones were the size of small moons. They moved with impossible precision, and his sensors couldn't even properly read their power signatures. "This is impossible," someone whispered. A transmission came through on all channels. Krell recognized the voice, Admiral Okonkwo, but she wasn't talking to the Council fleet. She was talking to someone else. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Okonkwo. Final weapons check. Sound off by squadron. First squadron, weapons hot and ready. Second squadron, all systems green. Third squadron, ready to engage." It went on. 1,000 ships, all reporting ready. The precision was terrifying. The power was overwhelming. Then another voice, male, calm and cold. "This is Admiral Marcus Chen, Cornsun Conquered, commanding the 1st Expeditionary Fleet, Final A. Message before engagement." Krell's breath caught. Chen, the same name as the ambassador, who had walked out of the Council 30 years ago. The human Admiral's voice echoed across every channel, so every ship in both fleets could hear. "People of the Council, humanity departed your halls 3 decades ago. We were called children, primitives, warmongers too dangerous to be trusted." A pause. Krell could imagine the Admiral looking at the swarm, at the desperate Council fleet, at the destruction and death. "Perhaps we were all those things," Admiral Chen continued. "But you forgot something important. Humanity has never lost a war we committed to winning. We've never forgotten who our enemies are, and we've never forgotten who our friends could have been." The human fleet began moving forward, accelerating past the Council ships. "We're not here because we forgive you," Chen said, and his voice was like ice. "We're not here because we forget. We're here because leaving you to die would make us like you, and we're better than that." Krell watched the tactical display as the human fleet positioned itself between the Council forces and the swarm. A protective wall of steel. "Admiral Krell," Okonkwo's voice addressed him directly now. "Pull your forces back to defensive positions around Centrum Prime. Protect the civilian evacuation. Leave the swarm to us." "Admiral, there are thousands of them," Krell protested. "Even with your fleet, we know exactly how many there are," Okonkwo interrupted. "We've been watching the swarm for 30 years. We know their tactics, their biology, their weaknesses. This is what we built for. This is why we went silent. This is what we became." Admiral Chen's voice came back, addressing his fleet. "All human vessels, you are weapons-free. Rules of engagement. Destroy every swarm ship that threatens civilian populations. Show them what humanity does for those who cannot protect themselves." A brief pause, then softer, almost sad. "Show them what we could have done together." The human fleet opened fire, and Krell understood that everything he knew about war had just become obsolete. The Void Swarm had existed for millions of years. It had consumed thousands of civilizations. It knew only hunger and the pattern of consume, expand, hibernate, repeat. It did not feel fear because it was not truly alive in any way the Council understood. But if it could have felt fear, it would have felt it now. The first human weapons to fire were unlike anything Admiral Krell had ever seen. Beams of pure white light that didn't just destroy swarm ships, they unmade them. Where the beams touched, matter simply ceased to exist, leaving perfect spherical holes through the bioships. "What is that?" Krell's tactical officer asked, staring at her screens. "Zero-point energy weapons," came a voice through the communication system. It was Admiral Okonkwo. "We're broadcasting on an open channel so you can observe. Consider it a lesson." The human ships moved forward in waves. The first wave consisted of 200 heavy cruisers, each one bristling with weapons. They opened fire together, and the synchronized attack destroyed 300 swarm ships in the first volley. The swarm responded, as it always did. It adapted. Bioships that had been hit by the energy beams began to show resistance. Their organic hulls shifted, changed, evolved in real time to deflect the attacks. "They're adapting," Krell reported urgently. "They're developing resistance to your weapons." "We know," Okonkwo replied calmly. "We've been studying the swarm for 30 years. We know they adapt. We planned for it." The human ships changed their formation. The second wave moved forward, and these ships fired different weapons. Missiles that moved impossibly fast, teleporting short distances to avoid swarm defensive fire. When they hit, they didn't explode. Instead, they released some kind of field that caused the swarm ships to simply stop functioning. "Quantum entanglement disruptors," Okonkwo explained, still broadcasting. "The swarm has a hive mind, a biological network connecting every ship. These weapons disrupt that network. Cut off from the collective, individual swarm ships become nothing but dumb animals. Isolated swarm ships began to drift, their coordinated movements breaking down. They fired randomly, sometimes hitting each other. The organized assault became chaos, but the swarm was vast. For every ship the humans destroyed, more pressed forward. The bioships began using new tactics, swarming around the human vessels, trying to overwhelm them with numbers. That's when the human carriers moved forward. These ships were the size of small cities. Their sides opened, and from them poured thousands of small craft. But unlike the piloted fighters the Council used, these moved with machine precision. Drone fighters, Okonkwo said, controlled by human artificial intelligence. No life support needed, no fear, no hesitation. And they can pull maneuvers that would kill an organic pilot. The drone fighters moved like schools of fish, weaving between swarm ships with impossible grace. Their weapons were smaller but numerous, and they targeted specific points on the bioships with surgical precision. Krell watched his tactical display in amazement. The human forces were fighting a battle on multiple levels simultaneously. The big ships handled the large swarm vessels. The drones engaged the smaller ones, and every weapon type was different, making it impossible for the swarm to adapt to everything at once. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "I'm picking up something strange. The swarm is trying to retreat." Krell looked at his display. She was right. The leading edge of the swarm was pulling back, trying to disengage. In all his battles against them, he had never seen the swarm retreat. Admiral Chen's voice came through the speakers. "Negative on the retreat. Pursuit formations advance. I want every swarm ship in this system destroyed. If even one escapes, it will report back to the main hive. We end this here." The human fleet accelerated. The massive Titan-class dreadnoughts, which had been hanging back, now moved forward. These ships made everything else look small. They were the size of asteroids, and they moved with impossible speed for their size. "What are those armed with?" Krell found himself asking out loud. "Directed gravitational weapons," came the response. It was a different human voice this time, younger. "Those ships can create localized gravity wells. Watch." The lead Titan-class ship, the Unconquered itself, fired something that Krell's sensors couldn't even classify. Space itself seemed to ripple. A massive group of swarm ships simply crushed together, compressed by artificial gravity until they were nothing but a dense ball of organic matter. "By the ancestors," Catherine whispered from the Council flagship nearby. "They're not just fighting the swarm. They're playing with physics itself." The battle lasted 3 hours. From start to finish, the human fleet barely took any damage. Their shields adapted to whatever the swarm threw at them. Their weapons cycled through different types faster than the swarm could evolve defenses. Their tactics were flawless. When it ended, the swarm presence in the system was completely destroyed. Not scattered, not driven off, destroyed. Nothing remained but debris and silence. Admiral Krell sat in his command chair, trying to process what he had just witnessed. In 3 hours, the humans had accomplished what the entire Council had failed to do in years of fighting. They made it look easy. "All Council vessels," Admiral Chen's voice came through. "The immediate threat is neutralized. Your evacuation can continue at a safer pace. We're establishing a defensive perimeter around Centrum Prime." A pause, then. "Councilor Vexithera, Admiral Marcus Chen requests permission to meet with the Council in person. On the Council's temporary station orbiting Centrum Prime." Vexithera stood in what remained of the Grand Hall. The crystal walls were patched with metal plates. Half the lighting didn't work. It was a shadow of its former glory. She watched through the observation window as a human shuttle approached. It was small and graceful, landing in the docking bay with barely a sound. Admiral Marcus Chen stepped out, flanked by 2 honor guards in black and silver uniforms. He was younger than Vexithera expected, maybe 50 standard years. He had his father's eyes, she realized. The same eyes that had looked at her 3 decades ago with hurt and anger. The few remaining counselors gathered in the damaged hall. It felt shameful meeting in such a place, but there was nowhere else. Marcus Chen walked to the center of the chamber and looked around slowly. His gaze took in the empty seats, the damaged walls, the defeated expressions. "Counselors," he said, his voice echoing in the too quiet space. 30 years ago, my father stood where I stand now. He came asking for partnership. He warned you about the swarm. He offered humanity strength and innovation. You laughed at him. You called us children." Vexithera felt each word like a physical blow. "In those 30 years," Marcus continued, Humanity advanced more than your species did in 10,000 years. Not because we're smarter, not because we're better, but because we had to. We were alone. We were afraid. And we channeled that fear into determination. He pulled up a holographic display showing human space. We built a post-scarcity economy. Everyone has what they need, so everyone can work on what they choose. Billions of humans chose to work on advancing our technology, our weapons, our defenses. We partnered with artificial intelligence not as slaves but as equals. We rewrote physics. We became what we needed to be. T-Rex stood up. Why did you come back? You owe us nothing. We treated you horribly. Marcus looked at him for a long moment. We came back because leaving you to die would make us like you. Cold, cruel, arrogant, we're better than that. He tapped his display, bringing up a document. Humanity offers the Council a choice. We will help you rebuild. We will share some of our technology. We will defend you against the swarm and other threats. In return, we ask for 4 things. The display showed the terms. First, a mutual defense treaty. We protect each other. Second, technology and knowledge exchange. You have biological and cultural knowledge we lack. We have technology you need. We trade fairly. Third, the Council must be restructured. Humanity joins as an equal voice, not a junior member. Fourth, no species in this new Council will be restricted or chained. Everyone advances together or not at all. And if we refuse? Catherine asked quietly. Marcus looked at him. Then we return to our space. We maintain our borders. And you face whatever comes next on your own. The choice is yours. We won't force you. We're not you. Vexithera stepped forward slowly. Her exoskeleton clicked with age. Ambassador Chen, your father was right about everything. I am old and I have been a great fool. I cannot undo the past, but I can acknowledge it. On behalf of the Council, I formally apologize for our treatment of humanity. Marcus nodded slowly. Apology acknowledged. But apologies mean nothing without action. Will you accept our terms? I will vote yes, Vexthara said. And I will spend whatever time I have left ensuring others understand why. One by one, the councillors voted. Some eagerly, some reluctantly. But in the end, it was unanimous. Marcus Chen watched them vote and allowed himself a small, sad smile. Then we have a new beginning. May we all be wiser this time. 3 months after the battle, Centrum Prime looked different. Human construction ships worked alongside Council engineers, rebuilding what the war had damaged. The humans brought technology that made repairs happen in weeks instead of years. Buildings grew from molecular assembly. Power networks stabilized with human fusion cores. The wounded planet slowly healed. In orbit, the human fleet maintained its presence. Not all 1,000 ships, but enough to make everyone feel safe. 50 capital ships formed a defensive ring around the core worlds. Their sensors watched for any sign of the swarm's return. Admiral Marcus Chen stood in the rebuilt council chamber. It was different now. The crystal walls remained, but human engineering had reinforced them. The seats were rearranged in a circle instead of rising tiers. No one sat above anyone else anymore. Today was the first official meeting of the new council. All the surviving species had sent representatives. And for the first time in 30 years, humanity had a permanent seat. Marcus took his place next to Vexithara. The old Arxeon counselor moved slowly now, but her mind was still sharp. She nodded to him with respect he had never seen from her before. The meeting began with reports. Refugee resettlement was going well. Human medical technology was healing injuries that council doctors couldn't. Food production was being restored with human agricultural systems. Children were returning to schools. But then came the harder discussions. The technology exchange is not going as smoothly as hoped, reported a Vren scientist. The human advancements are so far beyond our current understanding that we struggle to even comprehend the basics. It's like trying to teach ancient mathematics to someone who just learned to count. Marcus nodded. We anticipated this. That's why we're not just sharing technology, we're sharing education. Human teachers are working with council scientists. Not to make you dependent on us, but to help you understand the principles. It will take time. Maybe a generation, but you'll get there. And what do we offer in return? Asked T-Rex. You have technology beyond our dreams. What could we possibly give you? Understanding, Marcus replied. Humanity advanced quickly, but we did it in isolation. We missed things. Your species have thousands of years of biological research, cultural wisdom, artistic achievement. The Talaxis understand energy states we're just beginning to explore. The Vren have medical knowledge about reptilian biology we lack. The Arxian have engineering principles refined over millennia. He stood and addressed the chamber. You thought you had nothing to teach us. You were wrong. Every species here has knowledge worth sharing. That's what partnership means. We all have something to offer. A new voice spoke up. It belonged to a young human woman, Dr. Sarah Kimani, one of the scientists working on the exchange program. If I may add something, working with council biologists has already led to 3 breakthroughs in human medicine. Learning from Talaxis engineers helped us improve our shield efficiency by 12%. We gain as much from you as you gain from us. The council members looked surprised. They had assumed humanity was just being generous, pitying them. The idea that humans actually benefited from the exchange seemed to shock them. Now, Marcus said, we need to discuss security. The swarm is not destroyed. We hurt them badly, but they exist across multiple galaxies. They will return eventually. He brought up a galactic map. Red areas showed known swarm territory. Human long-range probes suggest the swarm is regrouping. We estimate they won't return to this region for at least 50 years. That gives us time to prepare. 50 years, Vexthera said quietly. A long time for humans. A brief moment for species like mine. Which is why we need to use it wisely, Marcus agreed. We're proposing a joint military program. Human shipyards will build vessels for council species using our technology, but council species will crew them, command them, maintain them. This won't be a human fleet protecting council space. It will be a unified fleet protecting all of us. Admiral Krell, attending as a military advisor, spoke up. The pride of the Arxian makes me want to refuse. To say we don't need charity, but I've learned hard lessons. I vote yes. The vote passed unanimously. Over the following weeks, more changes took shape. Human antimatter reactors were installed on council worlds, providing limitless clean energy. Human fabrication technology allowed worlds to build whatever they needed. Hunger began to disappear across council space. Poverty followed, but not everyone was happy. In a private meeting, several older council members gathered. They were species who had been powerful before the war. They saw their influence fading as humanity's voice grew louder. They're taking over, muttered a Keltar representative. Soon they'll control everything. They're helping us, Terex countered. He had been invited to this meeting but disagreed with its purpose. There's a difference, is there? Catherine asked. They have the strongest fleet, the best technology. When it comes to major decisions, what they want will happen because no one can oppose them. That's not partnership. That's dominance wearing a friendly face. Trex stood up angrily. You learned nothing. Nothing. They could have left us to die. They could have demanded tribute, territory submission. Instead, they offered partnership. And you're so twisted by old pride that you see tyranny where there's only help. You're young, the Keltar representative said dismissively. You don't understand how power works. I understand that power without wisdom leads to destruction, Trex shot back. I watched it happen. We had power. We had numbers. We used it to crush anyone who didn't fit our vision. And where did it get us? We were dying until humans saved us. If you can't learn from that, you're beyond help. He left the meeting in disgust. Word of these grumblings reached Marcus. He wasn't surprised. Changing attitudes after thousands of years of thinking one way was nearly impossible. He called for another full council session. When everyone gathered, he stood in the center of the circle. I've heard there are concerns, he began. Some fear that humanity seeks to dominate the council, that our help is a disguise for control. So let me be absolutely clear. He looked around the chamber, meeting each counselor's eyes. Humanity learned from you. We learned that the galaxy is harsh. That strength matters. That trust must be earned and constantly proven. We built our fleet not to conquer but to survive. We advanced our technology not for glory, but because we had no choice. We came back because it was right. We fought beside you because it was necessary. We offer partnership because we believe in it. But understand this, we will never allow ourselves to be chained again. By anyone, ever. The chamber was silent. You're afraid we'll become tyrants? Marcus continued. Good. Fear keeps people honest. But remember, you've seen what happens when we're angry. When we're threatened. When we're alone and afraid. We become unstoppable. He let that sink in, then his voice softened slightly. But you've also seen what we do when we have friends. When we have partners. When we're part of something larger, we protect, we build, we share. We choose to be better than our worst impulses. Vexithera stood slowly. Ambassador Chen, I have a question. What happens if the Council tries to restrict humanity again? If old fears resurface and old mistakes are repeated? Marcus looked at her with respect. She was asking the hard question no one else dared. Then we leave, he said simply. We won't fight you. We won't destroy you. We'll just go back to our space, close our borders, and you'll face whatever comes next alone. We've proven we can survive in isolation. The question is, can you? He paused, then added, but I don't think it will come to that. Because this time you understand what partnership means. You've seen the cost of arrogance. And because there's a new generation rising who remembers this lesson. He looked at T-Rex, who nodded. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, Marcus concluded. The swarm is only one threat among many. Together we can face anything. Divided, we all fall eventually. That's not a threat. It's just reality. The meeting ended with no formal vote, but with understanding. Later, in her private chambers, Vexthera looked at the memorial crystal she had placed 30 years ago. The one with Ambassador Chen Sr.'s words, "We came seeking partners." She added a new inscription below her old one. It read, "They came back as partners. May we prove worthy of the second chance." Outside her window, human and council ships patrolled together. Young officers from a dozen species trained on human vessels, learning their systems, earning their trust. Children played in rebuilt parks, their futures secured by cooperation instead of division. The galaxy was still dangerous. The swarm would return. Other threats waited in the darkness between stars, but this time the Council would not face them alone. And humanity, no longer isolated and afraid, would stand with them, not as masters. Not as servants, as partners, just as it should have been from the beginning.